Is your company run by narcissistic managers? Chances are that they are engaging in selective hedging that may put the future of your company at risk. Welcome to CurrencyCast. My name is Agustin Mackinlay. I'm the Senior Financial Writer at Kantox and your host. In this episode, we explore some of the links between the quality of corporate governance and foreign exchange hedging. Empirical studies overwhelmingly show that firms with weak corporate governance standards, that is to say, with a low percentage of independent directors, tend to engage in speculative, unsystematic hedging, otherwise known as selective hedging, a well-known recipe for disaster. We'll see how all of this can be measured, and we'll propose 4 ways to improve the quality of corporate governance in the area of foreign exchange risk management. Selective hedging is when a company hedges the underlying exposure but does so in an opportunistic manner, in accordance with managers' views on currency markets. It is widespread amongst companies. The 2 key defining features of selective hedging are A. Beating the market. Selective hedging relies on the notion that managers can beat FX markets by using their intuition and by adjusting the size and timing of their position in FX derivatives instruments. And B. Excessive volatility of hedge ratios. Selective hedging translates into hedge ratios, that is, the proportion of the exposure that is hedged that display excessive volatility in comparison to what is required by fundamentals. Empirical studies show that firms that engage in selective hedging tend to have a weak corporate governance structure. But what is meant by that? A good proxy for the quality of corporate governance is the percentage of independent directors within the board of directors. An independent director is a member of the board of directors that has no material relationship to the company and is not part of the executive team. Here are 2 possible reasons why companies with weak corporate governance structure may be reluctant to hedge the firm's currency exposure. A. When managers think that currency markets will move in favor of the firm's current position. Or B. When they are reluctant to hedge in the face of unfavorable interest rate differentials between currencies. Ultimately, managers at weakly governed firms have more discretion over the firm's foreign exchange hedging policy because they are less subject to control. Therefore, they are less likely to be penalized whenever they incorporate their own personal views into the firm's FX hedging policy. Strongly governed firms, on the other hand, will always hedge the firm's currency exposure, whatever the personal views of its managers regarding the path of exchange rates in the future. Related to the quality of corporate governance is the problem of the narcissistic managers. Managers classified as narcissistics are more prone to engage in risk-taking, extravagant, and even fraudulent behavior. Believe it or not, these things can be measured. Quite obviously, researchers do not have access to the medical records that would show a formal diagnosis of narcissism, but they have other tools at their disposal. Let me show you an example. Using natural language processing, researchers have computed the proportion of first-person singular pronouns, I, me, mine, myself, to the total of first-person pronouns, I, me, mine, myself, us, our, ours, ourselves, in thousands of documents released by companies in the oil and gas sector in the United States. Regression analysis was then used to assess those metrics against the variability of hedge ratios, a sure sign of selective hedging. The results are clear-cut. Narcissistic managers tend to engage in selective hedging much more so than non-narcissistic managers. Empirical studies show that the quality of corporate governance has a major impact on the way managers use foreign exchange derivatives markets. Managers at strongly governed firms will use foreign exchange derivatives in a way that maximizes the value of the firm. Managers at weakly governed firms will use foreign exchange markets in a way that is consistent with their egoistic ambitions. So here's a list of 4 simple yet powerful steps to improve the quality of corporate governance in the context of foreign exchange hedging. Number 1, set controls at each phase of the FX workflow: the pre-trade phase, the trade phase, and the post-trade phase. Number 2, when facing unfavorable forward points, rather than leaving exposures unhedged, consider using automatic conditional orders to delay the execution of hedges. That will allow you to reduce the cost of carry while still keeping all exposures under active management throughout. Number 3, consider moving away from time-based FX hedging programs to automated market-driven programs that will allow you to easily scale to any desired currency pair, thus avoiding, again, having exposures that are left unhedged. And finally, number 4, consider increasing the degree of FX centralization. It will allow you to avoid silos within the organization. And it also will allow you to curb the use of foreign exchange derivatives at subsidiaries that may have weaker corporate governance structures.